The day I inherited everything was the day I learned my father truly understood me. Not the day he died. That came 3 weeks earlier, sudden and stark, like a door slamming shut. But the moment his will was read, when my mother's face twisted and my sister's perfectly glossed mouth fell open, I finally felt seen. My name is Peyton, and I was always the backup plan, the responsible one, the one who got straight A's while my sister Kendall got straight passes to break curfew, the one who worked through college while she dropped out of 3 different programs, the daughter who showed up to help, only to be told I was doing it wrong. "This can't be right," my mother whispered, her manicured fingers trembling as she gripped the paperwork. "James would never—" "The will is quite clear, Mrs. Brooks," Jameson, my father's attorney, stated firmly. "The entire estate, including all properties and accounts, passes to Peyton." Kendall's chair scraped against the floor as she stood up. "This is bullshit! Dad wouldn't do this to Mom!" I sat quietly, watching them both unravel. 3 weeks of performative grief dissolving into raw anger. It should have felt triumphant. Instead, it just felt heavy. "I want to help," I said softly. "I'm going to buy a duplex. Mom can live in 1 unit. I'll take the other. We can be close. Maybe heal some of this." The silence that followed was thick with suspicion. My mother's eyes narrowed slightly, but desperation won out. That would be very generous, Peyton. I spent the next month making it happen. Found a beautiful craftsman-style duplex in a quiet neighborhood. Updated appliances, hardwood floors, even a small garden space. I helped my mother move in, watched her arrange her beloved antiques just so, and felt something like hope start to grow. Then came the business trip. 3 days in Seattle, nothing major. I should have known better. I pulled into my driveway on Thursday evening to find my belongings in garbage bags on the front lawn. Kendall's red Volkswagen sat in my parking spot, and through my window, I could see her arranging her yoga mat in what used to be my living room. "Mom," I called out, my voice steadier than I felt. "What's going on?" She emerged from her unit, arms crossed. The hope I'd been nurturing withered under her cold stare. "Your sister needs a fresh start," she said, as if explaining something obvious to a child. "We're a family, and you're outvoted." "Outvoted?" I repeated. "This is my house. I bought it." "And now you can help by giving Kendall your unit," my mother replied. "She's going through a rough time. You're always so stable. You'll figure something out." Behind her, Kendall appeared in the doorway, twirling my house key around her finger. "Thanks for the upgrade, sis. Don't worry. We donated most of your furniture to Goodwill. It wasn't really our style." I should have screamed, should have called the police, should have done something other than stand there, watching my sister smirk, and my mother dismiss me with her eyes like she had 1,000 times before. Instead, I turned and walked back to my car. My hands weren't shaking as I opened the glove compartment and touched the deed folder tucked inside, the one my father's lawyer had insisted I keep close. "Your father was very specific about this," Jameson had said when he handed it to me. "He said you'd know when to open it." Looking at my sister lounging in my window and my mother's satisfied expression, I finally understood. Dad hadn't just left me an inheritance. He'd left me a weapon. I pulled out my phone and dialed Jameson's number. He answered on the first ring, as if he'd been waiting. "It's time," I said quietly. "I need you to explain exactly how that trust clause works." I could hear the smile in his voice as he replied, "I was wondering when you'd call." Jameson's office hadn't changed in 20 years. Same leather chairs, same wall of law books, same faint smell of pipe tobacco, even though he'd quit when I was 12. I used to do homework here while Dad had his meetings, the quiet scratch of pens on paper like a lullaby. "Tea?" Jameson asked, already pouring. "You knew this would happen," I said, accepting the cup. "That's why Dad set it up this way." He settled into his chair, bow tie slightly crooked as always. "Your father was many things, Peyton, but naive wasn't one of them. Shall we review the deed?" The papers spread across his desk told a story of careful planning. The duplex wasn't just mine, it was held in a conditional trust. The moment I was forced out of my unit, ownership would transfer to a local women's shelter. No appeals, no takebacks, no legal loopholes. They can't just vote me out of my own property, I said, more to myself than Jameson. No, they cannot. He tapped the clause with one finger. But if they do, they lose everything. The tea turned bitter in my mouth as memories surfaced. Kendall at 16, stealing my car and wrapping it around a tree. Mom convincing me to say I was driving. It would look better on my insurance. Kendall at 21, borrowing my credit card for a spring break trip. Mom telling me to let it go. She was just finding herself. Me, always stepping aside, always making room, always forgiving. You know what this will do to them, Jameson said quietly. Your mother has nowhere else to go. Like when I had nowhere to go? The words came out sharper than intended. Senior year of high school, remember? When Kendall needed my room for her art studio and I slept on Trinity's couch for 3 months? He nodded slowly. I remember your father was very upset about that. But he didn't stop it? I set the teacup down with a clink. He never stopped any of it. No, Jameson agreed. Instead, he gave you this. My phone buzzed, a text from Kendall. BTW, your mail's in a box on the porch. We need your mailbox key. I showed Jameson the message. His eyebrows rose slightly. They're getting comfortable, he observed. How long will you wait? I should give them a chance, I said. Try to talk it out. Be the bigger person, right? Jameson leaned forward, his expression unusually intense. Your father's last words to me were about you, Peyton. He said, tell her when the time comes. Being the bigger person doesn't mean being the doormat. Something cracked inside me, a wall I'd built years ago. I need a locksmith. For the house? No. I stood up, smoothing my skirt. For the mailbox, let them have their false sense of security. I'll get my mail delivered somewhere else until it's time. Jameson's eyes crinkled with approval. Shall I prepare the transfer paperwork? Yes. I gathered my purse, then paused. Did he ever say why he left everything to me instead of splitting it? He said, Peyton will know what to do with it. She always does the right thing, even when it hurts. Jameson smiled sadly. I think this time he wanted the right thing to hurt someone else. I nodded, throat tight. One more question. The women's shelter, was that random? No. He pulled out an old photo from his desk. My father and I, maybe 12 years ago, standing in front of a building. The shelter sign was visible in the background. You used to volunteer there with him every other weekend, filing paperwork, organizing donations. While Kendall went shopping with Mom, I finished. The memory was clear now. Dad's quiet pride when I mastered their filing system, the way he'd bring me hot chocolate on cold mornings. I tucked the photo into my bag. Start the paperwork, Jameson, but don't file anything yet. I want to give them one last chance to prove me wrong. And if they don't? I thought of my belongings in garbage bags, my sister's smirk, my mother's cold dismissal. Then they'll learn what Dad knew all along, I said. The quiet ones are the ones you should watch out for. Family dinner? Kendall's voice dripped with suspicion over the phone. Since when do you cook? Since always, I replied, keeping my tone light. I just thought we should talk things out, like adults. A pause, then muffled conversation with our mother. Fine, tomorrow at 7, but Mom says no drama. I smiled at the irony. Wouldn't dream of it. The next evening, I arrived with grocery bags and my best mask of submission. Kendall lounged on my former couch, scrolling through her phone, while Mom hovered in the kitchen, watching me prep like she expected me to poison the pasta. This is actually good, Kendall admitted halfway through dinner, twirling fettuccine around her fork. Who knew? I did, Mom said. Peyton always liked playing house. I set down my wine glass carefully. Speaking of houses, I noticed you've started renovating my old unit. Your old unit, Kendall emphasized, perking up. Wait till you see what I'm doing with it. I'm turning the spare bedroom into a studio for my new business venture. Oh? I served more salad, the picture of polite interest. What kind of business? Social media consulting, she beamed. Talon, you remember my boyfriend? He knows these guys who need help with their online presence. They're paying cash, under the table. It's going to be huge. Mom nodded approvingly. Kendall's always been so entrepreneurial. That's wonderful, I said, pulling a folder from my bag. Since you're making such big plans, maybe we should formalize our new arrangement? Kendall's fork paused halfway to her mouth. What do you mean? Just a simple document stating that you and Mom voted to remove me from my unit for the property records. I slid the paper across the table. Nothing complicated. Mom picked it up, scanning it with narrowed eyes. Is this necessary? Absolutely, I said. It protects everyone, shows everything was done properly and with agreement. Kendall shrugged, already back to her phone. Whatever, just sign it, Mom. I need to post about my new home office anyway. Well, if you're sure. Mom reached for a pen. I watched them sign, these two women who'd pushed me aside my entire life, now eagerly putting their names to the proof of their latest betrayal, the document that would seal their fate. Perfect, I said, tucking it away. Now who wants dessert? I made tiramisu. Later that night, after they'd praised my cooking, while simultaneously suggesting ways I could have done better, I sat in my hotel room and texted Jameson a photo of their signatures. It's done, I wrote. Send the letters tomorrow. His reply came quickly. Are you certain? I thought about Kendall's casual mention of under-the-table payments, about the strange men I'd seen coming and going from the house yesterday. Whatever she was planning, it wasn't social media consulting. Yes, I typed. They made their choice. The next morning, I drove past the house early, just in time to see the mail carrier deliver a thick envelope from Wallace Law Offices. Through the window, I watched Kendall collect it, tossing it casually on the counter without opening it. My phone buzzed, a text from Trinity, my best friend. Did you do it? Yes, I replied. The countdown begins. How long until they realize? I calculated quickly. They'll probably open it tonight when they notice the law firm's name. Then they'll panic. Try to call me. Try to call Jameson. By tomorrow morning, they'll understand exactly what they've done. Are you okay? Trinity asked. I thought about the years of being second choice, of covering for Kendall's mistakes, of watching Mom's constant disappointment in my steady, responsible life. I'm tired, I wrote back. Tired of being the only adult in the room. Tired of being punished for doing the right thing. And now? I smiled as another text came through, Jameson confirming the transfer paperwork was being processed. Now they learn what happens when you push the responsible one too far. I paused, then added, Want to get coffee tomorrow morning? I have a feeling I'll be getting some interesting voicemails to share. Wouldn't miss it, Trinity replied. Karma's about to serve breakfast. The first voicemail came at 6:43 a.m. I listened to it over coffee with Trinity at our favorite cafe, speakerphone turned low. What the hell is this paper? Kendall's voice shook with rage. Some charity gets the house? Call me back right now. Trinity raised an eyebrow. How many more? I scrolled through my phone. 12 from Kendall, 8 from Mom, and, looks like they tried Jameson too. Right on cue, my phone lit up with Mom's number. I let it ring. You should see what Kendall's posting on Instagram, Trinity said, turning her phone around. The screen showed my sister's latest story, a tearful selfie with the caption, My own sister trying to make us homeless. Please share. Give it an hour, I said, sipping my latte. As if on schedule, comments started appearing under Kendall's post. Old high school classmates sharing screenshots of her previous arrests. Former roommates detailing stolen rent money. Someone even dug up her failed modeling agency scheme that left dozens of teenagers minus their registration fees. My phone buzzed again, A text from Jameson. They're here, with lawyers. Want to go watch? Trinity asked. No need. I pulled out my laptop. Jameson sending a live feed from his office security camera. The video showed my mother and sister facing off against Jameson across his desk. Two men in suits, presumably their lawyers, looked increasingly uncomfortable as Jameson calmly explained the situation. The trust clause is ironclad, his voice came through clearly. By voting Ms. Payton out of her unit, you triggered the automatic transfer. The women's shelter now legally owns the property. But we live there, Mom's voice cracked. Where are we supposed to go? The shelter has generously provided 30 days for you to relocate, Jameson replied. Given the circumstances, that's quite fair. Kendall slammed her hands on the desk. This is all Dad's fault. He never trusted me with anything. Perhaps, Jameson said mildly. There was a reason for that. The office door burst open. A man stormed in, tall, tattooed, angry. Talon, Kendall's on-again, off-again boyfriend. You stupid bitch, Riles, he snarled at Kendall. You said this was a sure thing. Do you know how much money I fronted for this deal? Trinity's eyes widened. Deal? I closed the laptop. Let's just say Kendall's social media consulting probably involved services that aren't exactly legal. You knew? I had suspicions. Dad used to say Kendall never met a get-rich-quick scheme she didn't like. I checked my watch. The shelter's board meets in an hour to start planning renovations. Want to grab another coffee? Trinity stared at me. That's it? You're not even going to watch the fallout? Don't need to. I showed her my phone. Local news notifications were already popping up. Women's shelter receives surprise property donation. Local woman's viral revenge story sparks debate. Your mom's going to lose it when she sees those headlines. She already has. I pulled up a final email from the shelter's director. They found all my old volunteer records from when Dad and I helped there. They're naming the new transitional housing program after him. Trinity reached across the table and squeezed my hand. How does it feel? Before I could answer, commotion erupted outside the cafe. Kendall stormed past the window, mascara streaking her face, Talon following and shouting about money. Mom trailed behind them, looking lost and small without her usual armor of superiority. For a moment, our eyes met through the glass. I saw the exact second she really realized, what she'd lost. Not just the house, but the daughter she should have protected, the family she could have had. I didn't look away, didn't smile, didn't react at all. She was the one who broke first, hurrying after Kendall with her head down. You didn't answer, Trinity said softly. How does it feel? I watched them disappear down the street, these women who had shaped so much of my life with their chaos and cruelty, who had never once considered I might have chaos of my own, carefully contained, waiting for the right moment. It feels, I said finally, like the quiet after a storm. The intervention came 3 days later. I opened my hotel room door to find Mom and Kendall, both wearing what I called their manipulation masks. Mom's concerned frown, Kendall's trembling lower lip. We need to talk, Mom said, pushing past me into the room. This has gone far enough. I left the door open. Has it? Kendall flopped onto the bed, her designer purse spilling open. Credit card statements scattered across the duvet, dozens of them, all maxed out. You don't understand, she sobbed. I'm in trouble, Peyton. Real trouble. Loan sharks, Mom added quietly. She borrowed money, a lot of money. And let me guess, you need the house to pay them back? Kendall sat up, makeup perfectly smeared for maximum sympathy. Talon knows these guys. They were going to help us flip the property. Quick cash, everyone wins. Everyone except me, I said. You're just jealous, Kendall snapped, mask slipping. You've always been jealous because Mom loves me more. The words hung in the air like smoke. Mom flinched but didn't deny it. You're right, I said calmly. She does love you more, always has. That's why you're both here trying to manipulate me instead of accepting consequences for once in your lives. We're family, Mom pleaded. You can't let some charity take our home. Our home? I laughed, a sharp, cold sound that made them both jump. You mean my home? The one I bought? The one you threw me out of? I needed it more, Kendall wailed. You don't understand what these people will do to me. Like what you did to those teenagers. I pulled out my phone, reading from the screen. $300 each for modeling portfolios that never existed? Or the roommates you stole from? Or maybe we should talk about Dad's watch that disappeared right after he died? Kendall went pale. How did you? I've been keeping receipts for years, I said. Every scheme, every theft, every time Mom covered for you while I paid the price. Did you really think I wouldn't notice the watch? Dad promised it to me on my 16th birthday. I needed money for... Save it. I held up my hand. I already reported it stolen. The pawn shop has security cameras, by the way. Mom stepped forward, switching tactics. Peyton, please. I know I wasn't always... I made mistakes, but I'm your mother. No, I said quietly. You're Kendall's mother. I was just the backup plan. The responsible one you could always count on to clean up her messes. That's not true. Really? I opened my laptop, turned it around. Because I have 20 years of bank statements showing how you emptied my college fund to pay Kendall's debts, how you remortgaged your house 3 times to cover her emergencies, how you blamed me for her DUI because her record had to stay clean for her modeling career. Kendall lunged for the laptop. I snapped it shut. Copies are already with the police, I said, along with everything else. They're very interested in this social media consulting business you and Talon were planning. You wouldn't, Kendall whispered. They'll arrest me. Probably, I agreed. Actions have consequences. Isn't that what you always said, Mom? When it was me in trouble? Mom's face crumpled. What do you want from us? Nothing. I walked to the door, held it open. I want nothing from either of you. Not anymore. You'll regret this, Kendall hissed, gathering her scattered credit card bills. When you're all alone with your perfect life and your perfect morals, you'll miss us. I thought of Dad's watch, probably already melted down, of my childhood diary I'd found torn up in the trash, of all the times I'd forgiven, forgotten, moved on. No, I said. I won't. I'm still your mother, Mom tried one last time. You can't just... The shelter moves in next week, I cut her off. You have 5 days to get out. All my life, you loved the wrong daughter. Now you get to live with that choice. They left finally, Mom crying softly, and Kendall cursing under her breath. I watched them go, feeling lighter with each step they took away from me. My phone buzzed. Jameson. The shelter board wants to meet tomorrow. Ready? Yes, I typed back. It's time to build something new. The house looked different already, moving boxes stacked like accusations in every room. I'd come for one final walkthrough to make sure they hadn't damaged anything in their rage packing. Look who decided to show up, Kendall sneered from the kitchen. Come to gloat? Just checking the property, I said, running my hand along the banister Dad had restored himself. The shelter needs an inventory. Mom appeared from my old bedroom, carrying a box labeled storage. We're almost done. You can have your precious house soon. It's not my house anymore, I reminded her. You made sure of that. I climbed the stairs, noting scuff marks on the walls where they'd dragged furniture. The upstairs hallway still held the family photos Mom had insisted on hanging, carefully curated moments of false harmony. Kendall's graduations, dance recitals, cheerleading trophies. My achievements notably absent. My old room was nearly empty, but something caught my eye under the window seat. I knelt down, reached into the dusty space, and pulled out a familiar blue notebook. My childhood diary. Oh, that old thing, Kendall said from the doorway. Found it while we were packing. Pretty boring stuff. I opened it carefully. Pages had been torn out, others defaced with mocking comments in Kendall's teenage handwriting. Next to an entry about my first school dance, like anyone would dance with you? under a page about making honor roll, teacher's pet loser. Something snapped inside me, not like a twig, but like a dam. You know what's interesting? I said, my voice eerily calm. I wrote in this diary about the night you stole Dad's car. Remember that? You were 16, drunk, hit a parked car. Mom made me say I was driving. Ancient history, Kendall waved dismissively. I wrote down everything, times, dates, what really happened. Dad found the diary a week later. I stood up slowly. That's when he changed his will. Mom appeared behind Kendall, face pale. What are you talking about? Dad knew everything. Every lie, every theft, every time you chose her over me. He kept quiet, watched, waited. Then he gave me the power to do what he never could, hold you both accountable. You're lying, Kendall said, but her voice shook. I pulled out my phone, played a video. Dad in his study, looking tired but determined. If you're watching this, Peyton, his voice filled the room, then they've finally gone too far. I'm sorry I didn't stop it sooner, but you're stronger than I ever was. Make it right. Mom slid down the wall, landing hard on the floor. James knew, all this time. He knew who his daughters really were, I said. The responsible one and the criminal, the truth-teller and the con artist, the builder and the destroyer. I'm not a criminal, Kendall shrieked. The police warrant on your phone record says different. I tucked the diary into my bag. They're very interested in those business meetings you and Talon were planning. You can't prove anything. I don't have to. You've done all the work yourself. Social media posts about your deals, text messages about money laundering, even Instagram stories about your new office space for illegal operations. Not very subtle, sis. Thunder cracked outside, perfect dramatic timing for my exit. But Mom grabbed my ankle as I passed. Please, she whispered, we can fix this. Be a family again. I looked down at her, this woman who had shaped my life with her conditional love. We were never a family. We were just people you used until they stopped being useful. My phone buzzed, a reporter wanting comment about the viral property clause story. I smiled slightly. Better pack faster, I told them. Once this hits the news, you'll want to be far away. I hate you, Kendall spat. I've always hated you. No, I said, finally reaching the front door. You just hate that I stopped playing by your rules. The storm was picking up as I walked to my car, wind whipping leaves around my feet. Behind me, the house stood dark and waiting, ready for its new purpose. My phone buzzed again. Trinity. You okay? Getting there, I typed back. Sometimes healing starts with goodbye. Moving day dawned bright and clear. I watched from across the street as shelter volunteers carried in furniture, their bright blue t-shirts like petals scattered across the lawn. The local news van had shown up an hour ago, cameras rolling as my mother's antique mirror was replaced with a donated desk. Ms. Peyton? A reporter approached, notepad ready. Would you comment on the unusual property transfer? Sometimes, I said, choosing my words carefully. The best way to honor a legacy is to turn pain into purpose. She scribbled quickly. Your sister claims you're destroying your family for revenge. My sister claims a lot of things. I gestured to the shelter director, Sarah, who was directing the installation of security cameras. Ask them about the 40 women who'll have safe housing here this year. That's not destruction. That's reconstruction. A commotion drew our attention. Kendall had arrived, Talon in tow, both looking worse for wear. This is my house, Kendall screamed, mascara already running. You can't just give it away. Ma'am, a police officer stepped forward. You need to stay behind the property line. Do you know who I am? She pulled out her phone, starting to live stream. Everyone, look at this. My sister's trying to... The words died as comments began flooding in. Isn't this the girl who scammed those kids? Hey, didn't you steal my rent money in college? Someone should tell her about karma. Talon grabbed her arm roughly. You said this place was our ticket out. Now what am I supposed to tell my connections? "Sir," the officer warned, "step back." I watched as my sister's carefully constructed world crumbled in real time. Her social media empire turning against her, her boyfriend revealing their schemes, her audience finally seeing the truth she'd hidden behind filters and false claims. Mom appeared last, looking small and lost without her usual armor of self-righteousness. She carried a single box labeled "Photos." "Peyton," she called out weakly, "please, one last chance." I walked over, took the box from her trembling hands. Inside, beneath decades of carefully curated family portraits, I found what I was looking for. The real photos Dad had kept. Me at science fairs, volunteering at the shelter, graduating college. The moments Mom had ignored because they didn't fit her narrative. "You can keep the rest," I said, taking only those precious few. "They're your story now. This is mine." "You're making a mistake," she whispered. "Blood is thicker than water." "Blood might be thicker than water," I replied, watching as the shelter's new sign went up, "but dirty blood has to be drained." Kendall lunged forward suddenly, trying to rush the door, but the officers caught her. As they led her away, her screams echoed down the street. "You'll be sorry! You'll have no one!" "Actually," Sarah stepped up beside me, "she has us now. Your father would be proud, Peyton. This place will help so many people." I looked at the house, my house once, transformed into something bigger than family drama and old wounds. The fresh paint covered years of emotional scars. The new furniture replaced pieces weighted with painful memories. "Ms. Peyton?" The reporter was back. "One final question. What would you say to others in similar family situations?" I thought about Dad's quiet strength, his careful planning, his faith in me to finish what he started. "I'd say that family isn't just blood," I answered. "Sometimes it's the boundaries you set, the truth you speak, the good you build from bad foundations. And sometimes the strongest family ties are the ones you break to save yourself." Mom's shoulders slumped as she walked away, finally understanding. Kendall sat in the back of a police car, her live stream ended, her schemes exposed. Talon had already disappeared, leaving them to face the consequences alone. Sarah touched my arm gently. "Want to come see the new computer lab? We're naming it after your father." "Yes," I said, turning my back on my old family for the last time. "Show me how to build something new." Behind us, the shelter's sign caught the morning sun. Brooks Women's Transitional Housing, Building New Beginnings. Dad would have liked that, I thought. He always said the best revenge was living well and helping others live better. The door closed behind us with a soft, final click. My new condo feels different at sunrise, quiet but not empty, peaceful but not lonely. The morning light streams through floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long shadows across minimalist furniture chosen for comfort rather than show. The TV murmurs in the background as I pour my coffee. Another news story about the shelter. They've expanded to 3 more properties, helped over 100 women rebuild their lives. The camera pans across the computer lab where Dad's photo hangs, his kind eyes watching over new beginnings. My phone buzzes. Trinity sending a link to a viral social media post. Someone's shared my story, calling it a masterclass in karma and boundaries. The comments section overflows with similar tales: golden children, enabling parents, the quiet ones who finally stood up. "Did you see?" Trinity texts. "You're trending again." Before I can reply, Jameson calls. "Good morning," his familiar voice crackles through. "I have something you should see. Can you come by the office?" 20 minutes later, I'm sitting in that same leather chair, breathing in the familiar pipe tobacco scent as Jameson slides an envelope across his desk. "Found this in your father's old files," he says. "He left instructions to give it to you once everything was settled." Inside is a single sheet of paper, Dad's neat handwriting filling the page. "Dear Peyton, by now you've done what I never could, broken the cycle, used what I built to protect yourself. And knowing you, you've helped others along the way. Your mother and sister will never understand. They'll call it revenge, but we know better. It's restoration, of dignity, of truth, of justice. I'm sorry I didn't stand up for you more when I was alive. I thought I was keeping peace, but I was just enabling chaos. You deserved better. The house was never about property. It was about power, giving you the power to choose yourself for once, to build something meaningful from the ruins of what they destroyed. I'm proud of you, kiddo, not for what you achieved, but for who you remained despite everything. The quiet one, the strong one, the one who finally said enough. Love, Dad. My hands shake slightly as I fold the letter. He knew, I whisper. He knew exactly what would happen. Of course he did, Jameson smiles. He raised you after all. My phone buzzes again, a news alert. Kendall's been arrested for fraud, her social media consulting scheme finally catching up to her. Mom's given a tearful interview, still playing the victim, still refusing to see her part in it all. Do you regret any of it? Jameson asks quietly. Through his window, I can see the shelter's new sign gleaming in the morning sun. A young woman walks through the front door, carrying a small suitcase in hope for a fresh start. No, I say firmly. They had a lifetime of chances. I gave them one more, and they chose what they always choose, themselves. And now? I think about my quiet condo, my true friends, the peace I've found in choosing myself, about Dad's letter and the legacy he trusted me to build. Now I choose differently, I say. I choose to be the person Dad knew I could be, the one who turns pain into purpose. Jameson nods approvingly. Speaking of purpose, the shelter board wants you to consider joining them. They could use someone who understands both sides of their mission. I smile, remembering weekends spent filing papers with Dad, learning the quiet strength of helping others heal. Tell them yes, I say, standing up. It's time to build something new. Outside, the city bustles with morning energy. My phone fills with supportive messages from strangers sharing their own stories of breaking free, of choosing themselves, of building better futures from broken foundations. People say revenge is hollow, but they misunderstand. It's not about feeling better. It's about making things right, about turning family trauma into community healing, about being the person you needed when you were younger. I head toward the shelter, Dad's letter safe in my pocket, his wisdom finally clear. Sometimes the strongest foundations are built on the ashes of what we were brave enough to burn down. The door opens, and I step through, not into the past of what was, but into the future of what could be. It feels like coming home.